Alright guys, welcome back. Video number 2 here. APU's up and running. We can go ahead and turn the external power off and we'll get some air in here, so hopefully the flight attendant can stop bothering us here. Alright, APU's up and running here. We'll go ahead and start getting stuff unplugged and get moving here. Alright guys, we can go ahead and run through the pre-flight checklist here at this point. So let's see here. Pre-flight checklist: interior and exterior inspections complete, circuit breakers have been checked, takeoff warnings checked, force quarters checked, fuel panel is set, passenger signs are on, pressurization panel is set, equipment cooling panel is set, mode control panel is set, windows are closed and locked, oxygen mask is checked, instrument source selectors are checked, altimeters are 3000 is cross-checked, flight nav instruments have been checked, reserve brakes are off down here, standby flight instruments have been checked, heading reference switch is norm, ground proximity override switches are off, ICAS is checked, parking brake is set. That's a lie. Nope, parking brake is set. Throttle levers are closed, fuel control switches are cut off, radios and transponder are set, radar's off, flight attendant briefing is complete, departure briefing is complete, logbook and QRHs are irrelevant, and fuel required is on board at 17.2. What do we need? 16.9. Good deal. So 69's on board is 69 and on board is 17.2, so pre-flight checklist is complete. Alrighty. Alright guys, as we get set to go here, make sure all our doors are closed here. An easiest way to tell that is the top lights are all your doors, so once those are all blanked out, we can run through our pre-flight pushback flow. So in my case, is just making sure that the recirc fan goes, we can turn that on now. Once the flight attendant closes the door, tells us that we're ready to go. Captain's going to turn, we can lock the door, turn the fuel pump switches on. Actually, we'll start at the hydraulic, pump first. So we'll go right to the left. So right electric pump on, center left 1 and 2, and then the left pump can come on. Now, those lights are going to come off except for the C2. I think it just load sheds, so that's okay if you see the press light for the C2 there. The fuel panel will come on and the beacon can get turned on, and then flight door gets closed. Then run through the pushback checklist, which is doors closed, hydraulic panel is set, fuel panel is set, flight door is closed and locked, and last thing I forgot to do is turn the transponder to on. In this case, it's going to be on the left side. Forgot to mention, if I was flying, apart from the engine start, using the second one for my leg, we would also use the ATC switched on my side as well too. So anyway, that's on the left side, and pushback, the transponder is on out on. So pushback checklist is complete.
Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
Alright, so as we call the ramp up here to help push us back here, I think it's a good time to discuss the engine start process. So it's it makes sense to just turn off the pumps or the packs here to get started, to start engines, but the way in which we do this is actually we are going to turn the APU off first, APU bleed rather, and then turn the packs off and then turn the APU bleed back on. So I was told this actually helps save the bleed valve. It kind of extends its life cycle, and then it also helps prevent us from blowing the APU off here and preventing blowbacks in the
Okay, all
pneumatic
doors
system.
and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
So once we start the engine, the process happens a lot quicker here in Fly Factor than it actually does in the real airplane. Generally, it takes about 45 to, I'll say, a minute and a half to get to go from starter cutout to the engine stabilize. Again, the process happens really quickly here, so I'm not entirely sure if I want to go into detail about how it works. But essentially, we're just going to once we start the engine, you should have the oil quantity will start to drop, your temperatures and the pressures will start to rise, and we're looking for
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
we're looking for roughly you want to get a max motoring, so about 25% into for the Pratt & Whitney's. For the RB211s, I'm pretty sure it's the same here. The only difference is they've got the rich and run options, and I think you really only use the rich once your EGTs are below 5 degrees. So anyway, all that being said, we'll go ahead and get pushed back here, and parking brakes off.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Copy. Alright, so once I get permission to start the engines, again, AP bleed comes off first. I'll wait for the valve light to extinguish, and it'll turn the packs off, and then AP bleed back on. Once we've got roughly 30 psi here, we'll go ahead and start the left engine. And once I start the left engine, or any engine for that fact, we'll start the clock as well too. So we'll go, turn switch to ground, and I'll start my timer here, since we do have a limit on how long we want this starter to run. And 3 is going up to, there's 25%, and we'll flick that up to run. I think I actually did that, but wrong there. Full disclosure, I have yet to fly RB211s, so I'm not entirely sure if this process is exactly how it's supposed to go, but I do know for the Pratt & Whitney's, our max is motoring of 25%. For the RB211s, it looks like that limiter right there was at roughly like 25-26%. So as long as it's past that, we should be able to introduce fuel, and it should be just fine. But again, this whole process, look, it hasn't even been 50 seconds, and not only is the EGT, well, the EGT is still rising, but engine's already started. The cutters
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
the engine's already cut out, so process happens way too quickly. We'll go ahead and set the parking brake and let this guy get out of here.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Alright, let's go ahead and stop the clock here and start the right engine. So again, we'll start the engine, and we're looking for 25%, again, N2 for the Pratt & Whitney's. I'm assuming, again, it's going to be the same thing on the end for the RB211s. I call myself a real pilot. Alright, so engine started, and let's start the right the clock here. So there is roughly 25%, and it's past the limit, so we go ahead and turn
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed.
run.
Hand signal on the right. Well, see you next time, and have a safe flight.
And the way in which you know you've got a stable start is the engine limit here. The little red line disappears, and in the real airplane, your EGT is going to keep going up until it stops at a certain temperature. It just varies on the day, but and the engine itself too. But it'll stop at a certain temperature, then it'll actually start to decrease. Your N2 for us will stabilize at 62, so this is actually pretty low. But then again, this is our RB211s, and like I said, I haven't flown these engines before, so that looks like a stable start to me. this point, I'll run through the after start flow. So engine, the AP rather, is going to go off. If we were going to use any ice, we would turn it on now. If we had center fuel pump or center fuel, we would turn the pumps on. And from here, we're actually going to turn the AP bleed off, isolation valve off, the right engine bleed on, left engine bleed on, the packs will turn those to on. I'm not entirely sure what my recirc fans are saying in op still. Let's see if we can reset. Those shouldn't say in op. I'm not sure why that says that. Yeah, it could be a problem. Well, I'll tell you what. Utility, oh, that's why. So utility buses are off for some reason. Oh, you know what? So while we were on the ground and we moved the thrust up and back, it actually tripped these utility buses off. So if that were to happen, put those back on, and there goes our recirc fans back on. So that makes sense. And I can't say that APU gen off is not supposed to happen. I know it doesn't happen in our aircraft, but again, there are so many iterations and versions of the 7.5, so that definitely could happen. But anyway, so our flow is getting all out of sorts here. So the flow is APU off, wing any ice, wing and engine any ice. If you need it, you turn on then. Then the pumps, our fuel pumps, if we had center pumps, we would fuel in our center pumps, we would turn those on now. We would actually leave it off during the start if we had fuel in our center tanks. Then the APU bleed, our pneumatic pedal, the right and left engines we turn on, the ISO and the APU bleed we would turn off, packs on, or it's auto rather, we would hit the recall button, move the auto brakes down to RTO, and then we would set the flaps here for takeoff. So 1, 2, down to 5, and we would run through the after start checklist. After start checklist, engine anti-ice is off, air conditioning panel is set, recall was checked, auto brakes RTO, after start checklist is complete. So we're ready for, since we're ready for taxi out here, we'll go ahead and run through the taxi checklist really quick. So for the taxi checklist, we're going to make sure our controls work first. And again, before we do this, or as we were doing this, I'll make sure that the oxygen pressure hasn't dropped more than 100 psi. So that's where writing that number comes in comes handy here. And then we'll run through the taxi checklist. So taxi checklist flaps, there are 5. We want to verify that in 3 different places. So in the gauge itself, 5. In the box, 5 degrees is what we want for our performance, and then the lever itself is at 5. Takeoff speeds, V1 is 130, 137, 142, 144 rather is V2, and then our big bugs, we're going to find that on the approach page, and that's going to be our ref, flaps 30 ref plus 40 for flaps 5 clean speed, and then flaps 30 plus 80 for our flaps up clean speed. So that's going to be 169. That looks about right. A little parallax there, so that's 169 and 209 for our big bugs. For the thrust, we are going to go with 45 with D rate, so 45, and trim is going to be 33. I haven't set that yet. 3.3. Eyeball there, and then flight control is checked. And taxi checklist is complete. Alright, once we're ready to taxi, we'll turn the taxi light on and we'll get moving here. Alright, so we are at ramp 1, and we'll take Lima, Juliet, Mike, all the way down to 27, right? Now, the way in which I like to So obviously we don't do any taxiing on the right seat here, but for reference, I like to use the border, the inside border of the EADI and EHSI as the center point of the wing, or the of the airplane, and tends to work out pretty well when I'm lining up for keeping an airplane lined up down the runway on departure air for landing, and when you're en route trying to dodge thunderstorms. So let's see here. If I can keep it on the inside, keep the line on the inside of those panels, it should be pretty close to center line. And let's see how this works out. Yep, pretty darn good. Alright, so as we continue here, we are going to eventually at some point do the departure brief. And essentially we're just verifying that we have the departure set up that in which we are expecting to depart out. So the easiest way we do this is we'll go to the route page and just want to verify that the departure runway is actually what we were given. So we'll say we are departing out from 27 right. To the next page, we'll go to verify our departure. It's going to be the bang 3 log transition LX page, RNFSys law, and it's going to be on using LNAV and VNAV. Initial altitude is going to be 10,000 feet, and we've got a 250 knot speed limit there at Rivet, and that's pretty much it. At some point, we are going to go ahead and sit the flight attendants down. And once they let us know that the cabin is ready for departure, we are going to run through the before takeoff checklist. And the before takeoff checklist calls for the running position. Verify it's 27 right. Oops, in this page, verify I've got 27 right inside and 27 right going to it on the outside. Flaps are, we're referencing the FMC here, so we'll say 5 and 5. Navigation briefing has been completed. Transponder, I can now move that to TARA. Flight attendants have been notified and acknowledged, and our packs are auto. And that's it for the before takeoff checklist. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one.